Redbourn, and what a fine morning it is. The sun's out and the village looks absolutely beautiful. I'm Simon Deglow, and I welcome you all to another Active in Redbourn weekly call. As always, thank you to everyone who's donated to keep these calls free of charge for our listeners over the last few months. And as I think I've said a few times recently, we will be keeping these calls going right through to the end of the year, whatever happens with lockdown, which obviously is still up in the air a little bit. If the technology works by very clever people in the background, it's now available live on the Redbourners Facebook page, and afterwards it will be found as a recording there and on our website. As in previous weeks, everybody bar today's speakers is on mute, so you can make as much noise as you like. You can boil the kettle, you can let your dogs bark and all that sort of thing. It won't impact the guests today. This week, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome back the wonderful Redbourn players. I absolutely can't wait to hear what they've got in store for us today. They've been so good, and we enjoy them all so much. Will, our lovely vicar, is back from his holiday, and perhaps he'll tell us a little bit about that. And then we're fortunate indeed to have Margaret Davis joining us from the Bowls Club. We will no doubt be entertained, inspired and informed in equal measure, and I'm sure that our guests will leave us all feeling happier and better than we are now, which is after all the whole point of these calls. Just before we start, some of you may have seen some of those funny incidents on TV when right in the middle of sort of a really serious discussion about the virus or something, a child wandered onto camera and asked for an ice cream, or said that they've lost their teddy bear or something, and sort of millions of TV viewers saw these incidents, which is quite funny. I mention that because any minute now I might have to do an emergency opening the door for my nephew for an emergency babysitting, and also something I've been waiting for literally months to be delivered. Sod's Law says it's going to come between 11 and half 11, so there we go. If they're on time, that will be quite funny. We'll see. Anyway, without further ado, I'd like to first of all welcome David and the wonderful Redbourn players. Good morning, team.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Simon. How are you all?
Very well, thank you.
Well as can be expected.
Very good, very good. So before we hear your wonderful performance, I just wanted to sort of get a little bit of an update on how you're doing and what you've been up to, and is there any chance of us seeing you perform this year, do you think?
Right, well that obviously depends a little, but yeah, we're keeping well. I mean, we mentioned last time that we do within our own group these weekly play reading sessions on Zoom that we get about a dozen members to, and so yeah, yesterday we read through a play called Tons of Money. We're at the moment we're doing a bit of our back catalogue just between ourselves. That's a play we performed in 2012, and that was very enjoyable. So we get
the number of people in this conference is 17
as we can. But yes, looking ahead, most of what we would normally be doing has been cancelled. But I would say we are still very hopeful of doing a production of some sort in December. It's difficult to look ahead, and I think that social distancing will be in place. But we have a very strong idea for something that we can do and can rehearse. And so we have been in touch with the village hall, and what they said to us is that the minimum, because it all comes down to how many people you can seat, and so how high it is and what it is. And so in the worst case, it's sort of spacing chairs. If they were sort of singles, then the minimum they can seat is around 28 to 30, and the maximum under the rules is about 50. So we will have to see, and it will be a strange experience for actors, because normally if we get only sort of 40 or 50 coming, of course they pack out the first 4 rows and you still think there's loads of people there. But
yeah.
We will be sort of looking at, and there's going to be like, 2 people here and 3 people there. It is going to be quite strange for everyone, but I think if we possibly can, then we will. So we are certainly planning a short performance in December, and possibly a different sort of format, doing 2 performances of a shorter play in one evening. So we'll be doing a sort of 2-show format at 7 and 9 over 3 nights. So we've got some fairly exciting plans in prospect if it all comes off.
Oh, lovely. Well, I do hope, obviously, I'm sure we all hope it happens. And I guess it's really hard to answer this specifically, David, but roughly when do you think you'll know for sure either way-ish?
Well, we always intended to sort of hedge our bets a bit about what we did. But because, of course, lockdown could be reimposed at any time. But I think that we will know certainly that we can do it and then it's just a question of adapting to whatever the circumstances are at the time. So obviously if lockdown eases, that's great, but I think that whatever we face, it shouldn't be an insurmountable obstacle to putting something on, unless of course everyone is confined to their homes. So it would, I think only, severe circumstances will beat us on this with a bit of luck.
Oh, super. Well, let's hope. We'd all love to see you perform. But the next best thing, of course, is to hear you perform. So if you guys are ready, I think I'm going to open the floor to you all and say we're delighted to welcome you back to perform for us again, and we're all looking forward to whatever you've got for us in store today. So the floor is yours.
Okay, well, we're doing two shorter sketches today. One of them from that, again, a well-known 1960s radio comedy show, Round the Horn, and it's the two characters, that Charles and Fiona, who became a fixture of the show, very popular characters. They're sort of aging Thespians, Noel Coward type, who listeners loved for their sort of agonised love affairs. And secondly, we're doing a sketch from the very first Secret Policeman's Ball, the Amnesty International inspired programme, and that's from 1976, and a sketch written by John Cleese and Jonathan Lynn. So we will kick off, yes, with the first one from Round the Horn. This is Charles and Fiona. If you're ready, guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes?
Fiona, don't you remember me?
Charles, it can't be.
It is.
But it can't be. It's impossible, incredible, inconceivable, unimaginable, and yet...
Inevitable, Fiona.
You startled me coming in like that, through the French windows.
Oh, darling Fiona, I had to see you.
I felt you would.
I felt you felt I would.
I felt you would.
I felt that too. And yet I was uncertain. Breath-haltingly, tooth-chatteringly, nerve-twitchingly, lip-bitingly uncertain. And yet somehow certain. And you, Fiona?
I was sure too, and yet somehow uncertain. Sure that I was uncertain, but certainly unsure. And yet surely, certainly unsure, with that sure certainty that comes from knowing. But Charles, you're back.
Yes. Would you mind scratching it for me?
There, darling. Better?
Oh, yes, darling. Oh, how I have missed that. It seems years since I was home on leave last.
Oh, Charles, I thought I might never see you again.
But it wasn't easy, but I pulled it off.
How strong you are.
Indeed.
Are you excited to be here, Charles?
Yes, Fiona, intoxicatedly, flutteringly, heart-thumpingly, passionately excited, and yet somehow calm. And you, Fiona?
Oh yes, I'm calm too. Resignedly, tranquilly, stoically, placidly calm. And yet, somehow, excited. Oh, Charles, you look so splendid in your uniform. Come, sit by me. Tell me, Charles, is it bad?
At the front?
At the front.
Pretty bad. At the front. Not too bad at the back, but I think he's done the sides beautifully.
You're pulling my leg.
Oh, I'm sorry, darling. I thought it was mine. Oh, it tickles you, does it? Perhaps I should have shaved it off before I came. How I love to hear you laugh, Fiona. It's a rainbow after rain, the first cuckoo of spring, a field of corn in the sunlight, the dappled dancing of moonbeams on a mountain lake. It's jam and crumpets in front of the fire, a fairy tinkling in an enchanted glade, the Taj Mahal by moonlight. It's, but but I just don't have the words.
I know.
I know you know.
I know you know I know.
Yes, I know.
What was it like out there?
Pretty damn grim out there. What was it like back here?
Empty, Charles. Pretty damn empty back here. Did you think of me out there?
Yes. Constantly, incessantly, never-endingly I thought of you back here. And did you think of me out there, back here?
Yes. All I could think of back here was you out there, thinking of me back here, thinking of you out there. Needing you, wanting to need you, needing to want you.
I want to feel you need me. I want to feel that you are there behind me, leading the way. And how are the children? All I know of them is what you have written to me. Emily, how is she? And Peter, Roger, Sydney, Rupert, Abdullah. You know, I've wondered a lot about Abdullah since I've been away. And Buster, how's young Buster? Is he in long trousers yet? Is he going out with girls? Does he look like me?
Buster's the dog, darling.
Oh, Fiona, these poignant, bittersweet moments of shared happiness mean more to me than life itself. Who was it said stolen fruit tastes the sweetest?
You, just now.
Ah, that's where I heard it. Oh, Fiona, how I adore these mad, feverish, turbulent, tempestuous moments of tremulous, simmering, volcanic, ungovernable, madcap, frenzied, delirious, euphoric bliss. You're so provocatively tantalizing, so piquantly thrilling, but I can't find the words.
I know.
I know you know.
I know you know I know.
Yes, I know.
Oh, Charles, do you remember that gay night in Warsaw?
Ah, Warsaw. How could I forget?
And Budapest?
How could I ever forget Budapest?
And do you remember that doorway of the basement shop in the Balls Pond Road?
Ah, who could forget that time? No, I don't remember that.
Oh, well, it must have been someone else then. It was so dark. Oh, Charles, I want to make you happy for these few brief, fleeting moments we have together. How can I make you happy?
You know, Fiona.
Yes, I know. Kiss me, Charles. Kiss me.
Oh, Fiona, if only this could go on forever. Tell me, Fiona, have you ever loved like this before?
Not quite like this.
Oh, forgive me, Fiona. I'm not. I can't.
Charles, you're limping.
Yes, I didn't want you to find out this way, but you'd have to know sooner or later. A shell exploded close to me, and I'm sorry to tell you that it's been blown off.
Blown off?
Yes.
Completely?
Yes.
Oh, Charles.
Fortunately, the MO says I will still be able to live a near normal life. Apparently, you don't really miss the loss of a little toe.
Oh, Charles, hold me.
I can't, Fiona. Curse this gammy toe, but I must go now.
Must you, Charles?
Yes, I must. Kiss the children for me, Fiona.
When will you be back?
I don't know. I have a funny premonition that I won't be coming back.
You mean?
Yes, but if I don't get back, don't grieve. Just think, at last, he's found a little rest, a little peace.
A little peace, Charles.
Yeah, she's a barmaid in Chatham.
And that's, yeah. Charles and
Very good. Loved it.
And yeah, something a bit more up to date now from the Secret Police Report in 1976. Hilary, if you'd like to introduce this.
The scene is an artist's studio in Redbourn. A St Mary's Church warden is looking with some displeasure at a painting of the Last Supper commissioned by St Mary's from a local artist.
You must be here on behalf of Will Gibb.
Yes, you wanted me to have a word about this Last Supper of yours.
Yes, it's good, isn't it? I think it's going to look great hanging in St Mary's.
Well, the thing is, he's not very happy about it.
Not happy?
No.
Oh, I know. You don't like the kangaroo.
What kangaroo?
Well, no problem. I'll alter it.
I can't see a kangaroo.
Well, it's right near the back, but don't worry. I'll paint it out. I'll make it into a disciple.
Ah, well, you see, that is the problem.
What is?
The disciples.
Well, what about them? Is it the beards? Are they a bit long? Oh, I can make them smaller.
No, it's not the beards. It's just that there are 28 of them.
Well, another one will hardly be noticed then, so I'll make the kangaroo into a disciple.
No.
Oh, all right, well, we'll lose the kangaroo altogether. I mean, I don't mind. I was never completely happy with it.
That's not the point. There are 28 disciples.
Too many?
Well, of course it's too many.
But I wanted to give the impression of a huge get-together, you know, a real Last Supper. Not just any supper, but a proper final treat. A real mother of a blowout.
There were only 12 disciples at the Last Supper.
Well, supposing some of the others happened to drop by.
There weren't any others. There were only 12 disciples altogether.
Well, maybe they invited some friends.
There were only 12 disciples and our Lord at the Last Supper. The Bible clearly says so.
What, no friends?
No.
Waiters?
No.
Not even a cabaret?
No!
Well, I like them. They fill out the canvas. But tell you what, I'll lose 3 or 4 of them, you know. Make them into...
But there were only 12 disciples.
I've got it. We'll call it the penultimate supper.
What?
Well, I mean, if there was a last one, there must have been one before that, right?
Yes.
So, this is the penultimate supper. I mean, the Bible doesn't say how many people are at that, does it?
No, but...
Well, there you are then.
Look, the Last Supper was a significant event in the life of our Lord. The penultimate supper was not, even if they had a conjurer and a steel band. Now, St Mary's commissioned a Last Supper from you, and a Last Supper they want, with 12 disciples and 1 Christ.
What? That's the one?
Yes, 1. Now will you please tell me why in God's name you have painted this with 3 Christs in it?
Well, it works.
It does not work.
Yes, it does. It looks great. The fat one balances out the 2 skinny ones.
There was only one Saviour.
Yeah, but what about a bit of artistic license?
There was only one Redeemer.
Well, I'll tell you what Will wants. He wants a photographer, that's what he wants. Not a creative artist with some imagination.
I'll tell you what Will wants. He wants the Last Supper with 1 Christ, 12 disciples and no kangaroos by Thursday lunchtime, or you don't get paid.
Some people are never satisfied. Okay.
Yeah, there we have it.
Brilliant. I don't know what to say, guys. That was really, really good as always.
Will enjoyed it.
Yeah. Yeah, we hope Will enjoyed it.
We'll ask him in a sec. Well, I do so hope that we'll be able to see you live in December, like you said at the start of the call. So keep up the great work, guys. Are you happy, as I've asked you before, to come back every month for us?
Absolutely.
I think so, yeah.
Lovely. We'd love to have you. So in a few weeks' time, we'll get you back again, and hopefully you can make us all laugh as much as you just did. I mean, I was having to put myself on mute there because it was so funny, especially the first one. I thought that was brilliant. I'd never heard that. The first one. It was really that agonised conversation between the two of them was absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
So thank you so much. So, Will, where do I start? First of all, welcome back.
Thank you very much, Simon. It's amazing what happens when you go on holiday and turn your back for a minute. By the sounds of things. I love that sketch.
Wasn't it good?
Yeah.
So did you enjoy your little break? Was it good?
Yeah, lovely, thank you. Yeah, really good.
Did you have decent weather?
Yeah, we were very fortunate. There's always a slight danger in this country, holidaying in this country. You never quite know what you're going to get, but we lucked out and had a very good week. Actually, it was super.
Oh,
yeah.
Good. I'm pleased you had a good break. Well, I'm tempted to say follow that, really, but I'm not sure how anybody could follow that brilliant performance by the Redbourn players, but if anybody can, you can.
Well, I'll do my best. So thank you, Simon. It's good to be back with you. Last week, as I've just said, we enjoyed a family holiday, so I wasn't on the community call. It wasn't the holiday we'd originally planned. Like for so many, our plans have had to change this year. We were meant to have been going to Lanzarote next week for a fortnight. That wasn't to be, and we'll look forward to it next year, as we've been one of the lucky ones to be able to change our booking. So this year we went to Suffolk instead. With lots of places booking up fast, we were fortunate to find a holiday cottage in a little village just north of Bury St Edmunds. It was on a farm, and we were staying in the converted dairy, which was delightful. It also happened to have a hot tub, so that didn't put us off either. So that was our base for the week, as we enjoyed some lovely day trips to coast and countryside, taking in Snape, Framlingham Castle, Thorpe Ness, Woodbridge, to name but a few. It's lovely countryside, and we came back refreshed and content, even if I had driven rather more miles than I'd intended. You see, there's something about that part of the world where nothing looks very far away on a map. Maybe it's some kind of optical illusion with the flat terrain and the smaller roads, but it actually takes quite a long while to get to places, and they are further than you realise. We actually racked up quite a few miles, but it was a very good week nonetheless. But it was an innocent question in the car from Darcy, our younger daughter, that got me thinking. She asked why it is called Bury St Edmunds, and it slightly threw me. To my great embarrassment, I'd never really thought. And when I gave it a bit of time as we drove along, and after hastily checking my theory with a certain search engine on my phone, it was clear and actually rather obvious. It's called Bury St Edmunds because it is the place where St Edmund was buried. But who was he? Well, the story of St Edmund, who ruled the significant Saxon realm of the East Angles from 855 to 869, tells of the brave King Edmund, who was killed by Danish invaders on the 20th of November 869, after refusing to renounce his Christian faith. After his capture, he was apparently tied to a tree and shot full of arrows, and then gruesomely beheaded. The king's body was found, but his head was missing. The story goes that his supporters heard a wolf call out to them, and they found it guarding the king's head, which was then reunited with his body. In 903, the remains of St Edmund, the original patron saint of England, were moved to the Anglo-Saxon settlement of Bodricksworth, later known as Bury St Edmunds, where the site had already been in religious use for nearly 3 centuries. St Edmund's body was moved to London in 1010 for the safekeeping, while the Danes were again marauding through East Anglia, but 3 years later his body was returned to Bodricksworth. In 1020, King Canute had a stone church built for St Edmund's body, and the first abbots arrived. This was the beginning of the Abbey of St Edmund, and it became a site of great pilgrimage, as people from all over Europe came to visit St Edmund's shrine. When the great Abbey church was built in 1095, St Edmund's body was moved there, and the shrine became one of the most famous and wealthy pilgrimage locations in England. For centuries, the shrine was visited by various kings of England, many of whom gave generously to the Abbey. The last time that Edmund's body was verified was in 1198, after a fire set the shrine alight. But where is St Edmund now? Because during the Henry VIII's dissolution of the monasteries, the abbey was desecrated in 1539, and Edmund's remains are believed to have been removed from the shrine. The commissioners who dissolved the abbey mention nothing about the body, and given St Edmund's royal status, it is likely they would have quietly allowed the monks to remove the body from the shrine and relocate it. The whereabouts of St Edmund remains a mystery, but one theory is that St Edmund's remains still lie within the abbey ruins today, and he may have been quietly buried in the monks' cemetery within the abbey grounds. I think it's a fascinating story, and I was grateful for my daughter's question that made me do some thinking and some reading. But it is a story, though, that speaks of division, the threat from the Danish invaders and the constant toings and froings, tussles and battles of those ancient Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, as well as the East Angles, what we call today East Anglia. There was Kent, whose name means high or coastal land, the enormous, rugged and beautiful Northumbria, and then the Saxon realms, West Saxon, conflated to Wessex, East Saxon, Essex, South Saxon, Sussex, and so on. It speaks of a time when this land was divided. In fact, East Anglia still is today. We have Norfolk, the North folk, and Suffolk, the South folk. And it left me wondering. Throughout our history, we seem to have drawn lines between them and us, with names that define who we are and who we are not. In theory, England is one nation these days, but I wonder if it is any less divided. In the past, the lines were obvious, the threats very real, but I sadly wonder if the divisions are as deep and wide as ever. I really hope not.
Very good.
I hope not too, Will. That was a really interesting one. Yeah, I don't know what to say to that really. I suppose it's nice, isn't it, to, I mean, I feel very proud, for example, to come from God's own county of Essex.
Well,
which some people might some people might disagree with my definition of Essex, but I don't feel different. I don't feel sort of Essex v the rest, if you see what I mean.
No. A bit of healthy competition in some sort of county cricket, maybe, or whatever. But I long for a time where we do feel more united as a nation, and I think coronavirus might be the seedbed for us to reevaluate some of that. I hope so.
Yes, so let's hope so. And I suppose, as we've discussed before, if Redbourn's anything to go by, our wonderful village, we've certainly seen some coming together with the village here, haven't we? So let's hope that the love we have in Redbourn can spread throughout the country.
Absolutely.
Super. Okay, thank you very much, Will.
Lovely. Great to be back. Thanks, Simon.
Thank you. So now, very patiently out there has been the lovely Margaret waiting for us in the Bowls Club. Margaret, I hope you are still out there, lovely, patiently waiting for us.
I enjoyed waiting.
Good. I'm so pleased.
Yes. It's been two lovely items before me. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
So thank you for waiting. So now it's the turn of one of our other village sports clubs, the Bowls Club. Can I start with some details, if you don't mind, Margaret, about things like how long the club's been in existence for, how many members you have, things like that, some sort of just basic stats to get us all in the zone.
Can I, first of all, thank you for introducing it as a sports club. I think possibly bowls is thought of as a game that old people play and not much of a sport. It is obviously and unfortunately more of people of a certain age that seem to find time for it. But anyway, those of you that know where our bowling green is, it's up at the recreation centre, and the recreation centre itself was opened in 1996, but it wasn't until 2005 that the Playing Fields Trust had included the provision of a bowling green amongst the other variety of sports that they had planned. And so the Bowls Club was formed in August 2005, long before my time, I might say. We actually, at this moment, which is a very different moment to any other season that we've ever had, we have 44 members, 35 of which are playing members. We are obviously hoping that a few of the people listening to this call might just have their interest awakened a little bit. But anyway, I'll go into that in a little more detail. But yes, we are a small club compared with others around us, but we are a very friendly club and always like to welcome new members to our fold.
Lovely. Well, I'm sure that's the case. So listen, I've got a few other sort of low-level questions for you, if you don't mind, Margaret. I suppose the first one is, I'm jumping around a little bit, but have you been able to play in lockdown? Because, of course, it's not a contact sport. So I just wondered what the rules, how they've worked for you guys.
Right. Well, we had actually just started tidying up the green in March, ready for the start of the new season, when, of course, on March the 23rd, the lockdown commenced. That coincidentally was my birthday, so it was a very different birthday to normal, but fortunately my family who live in Redbourn were able to come round and stand on the front lawn and wish me a happy birthday. But anyway, that's by the by. So during the majority of, during the very strict lockdown, no, we weren't able to. We were, like the rest of people, just able to do our one walk a day, which, you know, we're fortunate to have such a lovely place to do a walk a day. But we got to the point where we felt that we could actually play some bowls, but stay within the restrictions that COVID have put upon everyone. And so we are now up and running in a much smaller way than usual. Up at the bowling green, we have 6 rinks, which, if it was being played to not quite its maximum, would be 6 rinks times 6 people playing on each rink. Now we are restricted to, and really this is how we have worked it out as to be best for us. We use 3 rinks, say 1, 3 and 5. So we have the social distancing. We're playing just with 4 people on each rink, and all of the equipment that we're allowed to use, which isn't everything that we have there, but the mats that we use for bowling and the little yellow ball called the jack, which is what we're aiming for when we play bowls, those have to be sanitized every time so that people aren't at any risk at all. So it is now, fortunately, quite a safe thing there that for people to come along to and bowl.
Oh, good, good. Now, I must confess, I've only ever played it once. It was really enjoyable, actually. I really loved it, but it was much harder than it looked. And when I was bowling, or whatever the term is, or throwing, or whatever you call it, the ball kept veering off to one side because it's asymmetric or something. Do you want to? Have you got any advice for beginners about how to sort of do it properly?
Well, as you realise, Simon, that's what it's meant to do. It has a bias, a weighted bias, and that's part
I
of
didn't
skill
realise that at first.
I'm still attempting to conquer.
Right.
Can I say that I love watching all sports, but I have never been any good at any sport at all. My brothers got fed up trying to having me play cricket. My husband